typically this business here, this thing here, is what we see when we're told to go write a marketing plan. It's all these different categories and all these different things. If that's your thing, if that type of detail helps you, great. But what I would prefer we do is instead narrow this thing down to 4 simple questions. These 4 simple questions can also help us to be making strategic decisions, to be strategically thinking. The 4 basic, and somebody may say, well, there's stuff left out. Why don't you have this? Why don't you have that? I will address that, but the 4 basic questions I believe any marketing plan should cover, and that you and the 4 basic questions that I believe, ladies and gentlemen, will take you far down the road of building an effective marketing plan are as follows. Number 1, what is the value proposition? What is the value that we deliver in our offer? Recalling from Chapter 1, Session 1, marketing equals a value for value exchange. Something of value for something of value. What would cause the customer to want to give us something of value for this? Telling that story is a lot of what marketing's job is. Specifically, that value proposition. That's what good advertising is supposed to do. So as you watch commercials now, look for, do they communicate that value proposition? We'll talk about that in more depth in just a moment. Second thing is, okay, well, who is the target market? Who is the best customer for this? And the cool thing about marketing, too, is it's simple but not easy, yes. A lot of times a good place to start. If you found yourself employed in a marketing position tomorrow, you could start with the customer. We talked about this in Session 1, but basically if you ask simple questions like, who is our customer? Who are our current customers? You know, if we've got customers, good, we must have done something right. Who are our current customers? More specifically, you put on your marketing information systems hat, which talked about in Chapter 3, and you find out who are our best customers, and then find out, well, how did we get those customers? Find out from them, well, what was the value you sought? What value do you perceive we're giving? And you could use that and work backwards, asking simply, who are our best customers? That, folks, is the purview of the target market. We've got to specifically know, well, who is our target market? And as we talked about this evening, that's who we care about. That's who we care about what they have to say. If somebody said, well, I'll never buy your product, that might not be the end of the world if they're not in our target market to begin with. If they're not our target customer, then them not liking us may not be the end of the world. Then, of course, the big one, how can we reach them? How do we go about building this relationship with our customer? And then 4th thing is, what's it going to cost? Attaching a dollar sign to all these things here. The main thing I'd like you to be thinking about is just to have a grasp on these questions here. What is our value proposition? What is it we offer? What is the reason a customer would give us anything of value for this? And who's that target market? Who would be the ideal customer for this? And then this business of how can we go about reaching them? How do we connect with this customer? Sometimes that gets answered by knowing about who the target audience is. And then the what's it going to cost part just becomes finding out how to attach a specific dollar sign to what it's going to take for us to be able to do this. So, value proposition. This is the offer. This is the exchange. Marketing being something of value for something of value. This is the offer. A good value proposition also should focus more on benefits rather than features. And if you watch commercials, or you watch the good ones, the ones that make you say, I want to know more about that, or the ones that are really good marketing that make you say, I want one of those, I would be willing to spend money on those. They are good at communicating the value proposition. Because a lot of times you look and say, well, why would anybody want one of those? I mean, if you think about it, even modern day miracles, at first we didn't get. You know, like internet. Well, why would I need the internet? You know, because that connects you to the entire world. The way to build a value proposition is to focus on benefits rather than features. A feature is what it is. The benefit is what it does. People buy benefits. They use the features as a logical way to justify the purchase. But what they buy are benefits. And that's why a good advertisement dramatizes the benefit, it dramatizes the value proposition. And so, in thinking in terms of benefits, what does it do for the customer? You've got to showcase that. A couple of related but disparate examples here. Wedding gowns and hogs. If you look at that just from the feature and benefit side of things, let's think about a wedding gown first. A wedding gown, ladies already know, the ladies spend their lives knowing this. Guys learn this one pretty quickly once you get involved in the wedding planning process. But a wedding gown, wouldn't you agree? It is far, far more than just a garment, isn't it? It's not just a garment of cloth and thread and whatever other materials. Those are the benefits, yes, but what it really is a showpiece, isn't it? It's the centerpiece of the most important day in that bride's life. And that is how it is marketed. And that also is how we justify the exorbitant price that we pay for it, because it's worth it, right? So because it's that centerpiece, and you want to have all that value. You want to put all that thought and planning into it. Similarly, the HOG. And a HOG is an acronym for the Harley Owners Group. Why would somebody want to be called a hog? But if you own a Harley, you're part of the family. You're part of that secret society of Harley owners. And think about a Harley Davidson as a purchase. In fact, how many Harley owners do I have in here? Wow, I think this may be the first. Do we do one or?
Used to be.
Okay, wait. Well, and that still counts. The idea of this is not an inexpensive purchase, is it? A motorcycle is not an inexpensive purchase, for one thing. Second of all, as a primary means of transportation, is a motorcycle really the best choice anywhere, but especially in Oklahoma, as the primary means of transportation? Now, the transportation, that's the feature. This vehicle that gets you from point A to point B. That's not what people buy, though, is it? They want to be part of the hogs. They want to be part of the Harley Owners Group. What Harley Davidson is really selling is freedom and a chance to be a part of that. As one of the board of directors said back when their stock started really doing well again, he was quoting as having said, "Wall Street finally gets it. They realize we're not in the motorcycle business. We're not in the transportation business. We are in the business of making it possible for that 43-year-old accountant to strap on a pair of leather chaps, clip on a ponytail, and ride through small towns, and to ride through small towns across America and have people be afraid of it for a while." That's what they're buying into. It's that whole freedom thing. It's that whole thing that you buy into. And of course, not only do we spend money on the motorcycle itself, there's all these appurtenances. There's the Harley-Davidson sunglasses, the Harley-Davidson t-shirt, all these other things. The Harley-Davidson necktie, the Harley-Davidson lapel pin that you can wear with your suit and tie every day to show the world you own a Harley-Davidson. Yes, sir?
I would even take your point farther to say you can ride, as an example, a Yamaha V-Star and feel you get on a Harley and they've done that good of a job to build a culture that you feel more free. You're riding a motorcycle, but you get on a Harley and you're on a Harley.
Yeah.
Period.
That's
you
it.
Feel freer.
Amen, brother. Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah. There's Harley, and there's everybody else. Right. There's a Harley. There's a Harley, and there's everybody that's not Harley.
Yeah.
There you go. See, I don't. As a point of full disclosure, I do not own a Harley. But I would love to have a Harley Davidson. I'd be too big of a weenie to ever ride the thing. I'm scared of motorcycles. I'd love to have a Harley Davidson. And every Saturday, you could drive by, and I would have my garage door open, and my bike would be in there, and I'd be showing it to everybody. I was like, "Wow, you got a Harley?" "You bet I do." "You ride it much?" "Well, not as much as you'd think, but because of that." And that's what people are buying into. Now, quick aside, today that's the standard. Today that is the motorcycle that appeals to the marketplace. And you think, wow, Harley, they got that thing established. The next generation, though, maybe they don't see it so much. Maybe they say, well, that was Dad's motorcycle. I want that Yamaha XYZ 670 with the optional Chuck Norris rally pack. That's what I want. That may be what the next generation. So again, that's back to that SWAT thing. Well, culturally today, the Harley's the thing to have. But what if there's something else that goes on? Or what about that three-wheeled motorcycle that came out a while back? The idea, well, the baby boomers would love to ride a Harley, but they don't want to get hurt on one. So we'll change the standard to the three-wheel motorcycle. So again, always being asking these kind of cultural questions. But the bottom line, folks, as you folks hit upon it, thank you for doing so. We don't buy the features, we buy the benefits. It's not what it is, but what it does That's the story we got to tell in marketing. So, question we got to answer, why would they give us something of value for this? Do we tell that story well enough? Sometimes I use these glamorous examples and you say, well, that's fine, but what if you're not Harley Davidson? Not everybody is Harley Davidson after all. It still does, though, come back to the value that we can deliver. And another way of showcasing value is, well, what problem does it solve? What does it take away? To take something as unglamorous as life insurance. Nobody wants to go buy life insurance, but wouldn't it be nice to be able to provide for your loved ones in case something happened to you? So what problem does it solve? Or the AAA membership. You get the AAA membership kind of hoping you never have to use it, and yet you have the peace of mind now of knowing, get a flat tire downtown after the Thunder game, boom, I make a phone call, somebody comes and helps me. So what problem does it solve? What pain does it take away? And again, you see these things dramatized, don't you, in commercials. Or how does it leave the life of the customer better? How's your life going to be better today than it is, or better tomorrow than it is today if you have this thing? And there's various ways to tell that story, as you can imagine. You also have got to think about competition. Because if you're saying to yourself, Bud, you haven't even mentioned competition yet, you can't even begin to talk strategy until you talk about competition. It's been argued, Michael Porter argues, that it's, you got to start with competition. If there were no competition, there would be no need for strategy. You could also say, folks, that those environmental forces we just talked about, those are forms of indirect competition. And think about that for a second. And you think, well, we may own all the market share, but if a better technology comes around tomorrow that people would rather have, technology is our competitor, or the change in the tax laws might be our biggest competitor. We're rocking along great, but all of a sudden, the income tax rate goes up. Customers are trying to figure out how to pay their bills rather than be able to buy the motorcycle. So taxes going up could be a form of competition. So not to make things complicated. Again, my goal is to keep it simple, but I hope you see the frameworks again. How to use those frameworks as decision-making tools. And so different things here. What's our message and so forth. Good value proposition can be both an answer to the customer's question and can become a battle cry for the organization. This relates back to guiding principles. If we really get this thing down well, it becomes an all-encompassing battle cry for the organization. And it describes the value, and it's also the battle cry for the organization. Starbucks is a gourmet coffee experience, period. That's the whole value that they're offering. That can become a battle cry for the organization. If our goal, employees, is to deliver a value or a gourmet coffee experience for our customers, everything we do day in and day out as we deal with each customer needs to have a gourmet feel to it. So you see how that can work. Hate these guys, still hate them. Nobody's going to convince me otherwise, but to their great credit, if all we measure is results, Walmart does a good job of this. My apologies if you can't see on the bottom here. Walmart's value proposition, short and sweet, is save money, live better. Hate the guys, but love the idea, because it does cover it all, doesn't it? We're here to help our customers save money so they can live better. We're here to help them save money. What problem does it solve? What pain does it take away? Save money. Why? Well, not just for the sake of saving money. That's just a feature. Why? So they can have a better life. They'll live better because they save money. Save money, live better. Their commercials dramatize that very thing. We see the mom come in from the grocery store. She's got this bag of groceries. She's all happy, puts the groceries down on the kitchen table, starts getting in the groceries, and the commercial talks about how much she saved on this and that, a such and such percentage savings over the competition. And then she pulls out a soccer ball and hands it to her little son. And it's implied, it's never said, but it kind of implied, maybe she's a single mom. Maybe she's a single mom. And she hands the soccer ball to her son. Save money so you can live better. We help you save money on the things you have to buy, so you'll have more money for the things you want to buy. You save money so you can live better. The money you save, you got more freedom to do stuff with it. So, again, hate the company, can't emphasize that strongly enough, but love the value proposition, the slogan, save money, live better, because it tells the whole story. Here's who we are, what we're all about. Here's the problem we solve. Here's the pain we take away. And here's how this leaves the life of the customer better. A couple of things, though. Doesn't have to be a tagline. as you're trying to write these things, sometimes coming up with that cool, succinct, save money, live better, you may have to kiss a lot of frogs before you find that marketing prince on a deal like that. So it's a process. It may not come easily. Be prepared for that, okay? It's great if you can just gel the value proposition down to a statement of value, but it may never get there. It may be, a set of guiding principles. But good idea to shoot for that. It is a journey, and remember, forward is better than perfect. Just like with strategic planning, what we want is strategic execution. Forward is better than perfect. Don't sit around waiting to execute, waiting for the perfect slogan or the perfect value proposition. Forward progress is far better than perfect. Remember, plan, organize, implement, and control. You can always go back and change it if you want to. So forward is better than perfect. And use your own filters on how you determine, well, are we ready to move forward or not? But what I'm really suggesting is don't get hung up in analysis by paralysis. You try a campaign, you don't like it, you fix it, you move on. So, which brings us to the next thing. Who's the target market? Okay, we got this value proposition. We got this thing we do well, which may evolve from our strengths. As we do our SWOT analysis, we find out what do we do really well, better than the other guys. Who then is the best audience for this? Remember, we want the best customer. Who's the best customer? And you get to define who the best customer is, but typically that's going to be the most profitable customer. On the video, I elaborate on some other examples of what the best customer is, so I'll skip over that. But the bottom line on the target market is derived directly from your text. I believe it's chapter 7, which talks about market segmentation, targeting, and positioning. It's the definition of what's required for a market to exist. For a market to exist, there must be the desire, the ability, and the willingness to spend with us. The desire, the ability, and the willingness. So that's the question we've got to ask ourselves. Okay, well, who wants this? Who's got a desire for this? Who would potentially want this thing? Okay, they may want it, but can they afford it? Not only who wants it, but who can actually write me a check? And I realize that's dated. I'm sorry, young people. Checks are what old people used to do. You can do a Google search. You can find out what a check was. It was a great thing. But who can pay for this? Who can pay me for this? And then who's willing to pay for it? People may be able to afford stuff, but they're not willing to spend money on it. They don't see that. So if you ever read a book called The Millionaire Next Door, it talks about that very thing. The fact that self-made millionaires became self-made millionaires because they were very smart with their money. They bought a lot less car than they could afford to buy. They didn't want to spend all their money on a luxury car, even though they had the ability to buy any car they wanted to. So who's the best target audience for this? And again, who matches our strengths? Back to SWOT analysis. Who can we best serve? Who is it we're going to do really, really well? And again, I think you need to have some type of a financial metric. Who provides the best return? Now, I keep putting that stuff in quotes. Again, it's on the video, so if you want elaboration on that, you can get it there. But most of the time, we want to focus on the most profitable customers. Doesn't have to be the biggest volume customers, but the most profitable customers. So your good old financial planning tools that you learn in other classes can help you in answering that question. Who is the target audience? And the big one here, and this is where it does get kind of tough. How do we reach them? How do we connect with the customer we're after? Can we reach them? Can this customer group be reached? Is there a way to reach them with our marketing message? What means are we going to use to tell our story? What means or methods are optimal? Maybe we say to ourselves, wow, we could tell this story so well visually, we ought to do television. Well, can we afford to do television? Can we afford to do television right? Even if we say, well, gosh, we could put our own YouTube channel out there. Well, how are you going to drive traffic to it? Well, we could do our own trade video or something. Okay, well, that would be great too. Can we afford to do video and do it right? So can we reach them? What means or methods are we going to use to tell our story? Is it affordable to reach them? And even how we're going to facilitate this value exchange, the distribution side of this. How are we going to get it from point A to point B? How can we make it available? There may be, maybe we say to ourselves, gosh, there's people in another country that would love to have this product we're offering. Well, that's swell, but what would it cost to ship it to them or to get it to them or any variety of things? So the message, to sort of bring it back full circle, the message of how we tell our story, that all comes from the value proposition as well. So there's the value proposition, and then there's the question of, okay, how do we tell that story? We're going to do it just online, we're going to do radio, we're going to do any other community, we're going to do a social media campaign. What means are we going to use to tell our story? And I know I'm kind of rushing through this. Again, I go into far more detail than you're going to want to listen to probably on the video, but I give some examples on there. Budget, what's it going to cost? Be careful, ladies and gentlemen, about thinking that you have found for yourself a free tactic or a free strategy. Even if we're talking about social media, somebody's still got to build the relationships. You got to monitor that. You got to be thinking ahead. So there's still cost, even if there's soft costs or indirect costs associated with what we're looking at, and that's a big thing. And again, a couple of examples on the video that I'll share with you. And I also talk about, for those of you that may say to yourself, well, wait a second, 4 steps, what about competition? What about situation analysis? What about this? What about that? I do address that as well. Yeah, you want to be thinking about your competition constantly. And yes, you do need to start with a situation analysis, but to me, those are the background. That's sort of that's not the 4 main questions. You want to be doing that sort of thing all the time. You want to constantly be doing the swatting of the pest. You want to constantly be thinking of situation analysis, and you got to constantly be thinking about your competition, and let those findings help you answer the 4 basic questions of a simplified marketing plan. But it all, again, kind of comes full circle, though. Basically, if you want to obsess on something, though, obsess not on the competition, but your customer. If you really want to answer these questions, stay closer to your customer than anybody else, and then your competition has got nowhere to go.